Hi there, students. To legislate. Legislation, the noun. Legislature, the period of time where a government can make laws. Legislation, a legislator. Okay, this video was a suggestion by Peter, so thank you, Peter. Okay, so to legislate, to make laws, to pass legislation. Okay, so to legislate is to make laws when a governing body makes laws, but this is normally when a parliament makes laws. So to legislate, to create laws, a government legislates, it makes a new law. So they promise to legislate against the advertising of tobacco. There is insufficient legislation against human cloning. Okay, so to legislate, and the legislators are the members of the government or the members of the ruling party who are able to pass laws, to pass legislation. And this word legislation, this is about making laws. Legislation is laws considered collectively. The legislation about the rental of houses is housing legislation. Yeah, legislation, the process of enacting laws, of making laws. Legislation is about to come in to regulate this matter. So once the legislation is passed, then the courts must enforce it. All of this new legislation relates to the taxation of hydrocarbons. Our task is to evaluate the legislation in light of what has happened. Clean air laws are coming in, and there is more and more legislation about clean air. So the legislators visited the scene of the accident and called for new legislation to stop this happening again. So to legislate, to establish, to regulate by law, to make laws, to enact laws specifically. And this is to legislate. A government legislates, it passes a new law. All of the countries in the EU have legislated against modern day slavery. You can't legislate to change people's attitudes, to make laws, to establish laws, to put laws in place. This is lawmaking. So legislation is the process of making laws by a parliament, by a legislature, by a governing body. And before an item of legislation becomes law, it's probably called a bill. And you could refer to it generally as legislation. Legislation is a general word about the laws, the rules, the regulations that govern anything. Okay, so to legislate, to make a law affecting something. They promise to legislate to protect people's right to privacy, to legislate against something. The government will legislate against discrimination in the workplace. You can't legislate against bad luck. Or the parliament legislated for a higher minimum wage. Okay, so the legislators, these are the people who pass laws, who enact laws, who put laws in place and say, this is now the law. It's the job of Parliament to legislate. We must legislate for for a more equal society. There's all sorts of legislation which controls drugs. The police think that this legislation like this would be totally unworkable. The legislation is still in a draft form. He gave his assent to the proposed legislation. This is a significant new piece of legislation. So let's see, legislation, formality. I think I'm going to give it a 6, maybe a 6.5. I think I would use laws more informally. Use it in a semi-formal conversation, semi-formal or formal writing. And this comes from Latin legislatio, the giving of law. Legislator. Okay, this is about laws. So legislation. Bye for now.